everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing something different in this video, and that is going to be I'm going to go through all of my knitting notions and some miscellaneous knitting tools, and I'm going to rate them. So basically what I'm going to do is I've got my, I'm pretty sure I've got all of my knitting notions here, and then some miscellaneous tools. And basically what I've done over the past month is I wrote down every notion that I owned and how frequently I used it. And then kind of I kept in mind too, like certain things that I only use in special occasions kind of thing. So I'll mention that when I go through the tools. So basically I'm going to be rating, I've lost my notebook's over there. Basically I'm going to be rating my tools from 1 to 5. 5 being I use it all the time. 4 being I use it often, 3 being I use it sometimes, I think 2 is I rarely use it, and 1 is I pretty well never use it. So yeah, so that's what's going to happen in this video. And the other thing too that I want to mention before I get into it is that I'm also going to do a giveaway for this video, and I'll talk more about that after I finish rating all of my knitting tools. Or not all of my tools, my knitting notions and some miscellaneous tools. So yeah, before I do that, I just have to grab my notebook. So one sec. Okay, so I guess the first thing on the list is going to be notebooks. This is not a notion, it's a miscellaneous tool, but I have a number of these notebooks that I keep at my desk. This one specifically is specifically knitting related. So I've got all of my projects that I'm working on, goals that I'm setting, that I've set for myself for certain knitting projects that I want to get done by a certain date, and some basically like my future plans for the coming months, like things I want to knit in the summer, etc., etc. But yeah, so I mean, I would, of all my miscellaneous tools, I'll say notebooks are a 5 out of 5. I use them all the time, specifically this one. Like I've written down all of my knitting tools and notions, and I've ranked them from 1 to 5. So yeah, so that's, yeah, notebooks 5 out of 5. Use them all the time. The other thing too on the topic of notebooks is pens. So I've got this, what is this? This Pentel Energel pen. Got it from Staples. I don't think that's going to focus, but it's just a click pen. It's a gel pen. And then I've got, what is this? Stettler Tri-Plus colored markers. I use colored markers all the time when I'm trying to keep track of a pattern and like the different repeats. Like if there's, I guess different rows have different cable repeats and stuff like that, I'll use different colors to mark off each one to keep track of them. And then I also have another pen that I sometimes use. I mostly use this one, but then I have like a mechanical pencil and then one of these eraser things. I don't know, I like this eraser better than just the little square one. It's a little bit fancier, but it's easier to erase stuff with. Oh, and then the other thing too, on the topic of notebooks, is this I would rate probably a 2 out of 5. I used to use these all the time. I used to put like, it's just a little lined notebook, and I used to use this in a project, like I would toss it into a project bag and I would use this to keep track of my projects, or like to keep track of like rows and repeats and stuff like that, or to write down where I was in a project so that I wouldn't, you know, put it down for a month, pick it up, and be at the wrong spot. And then, of course, sticky notes. These are my favorite ones. I guess it's these type of sticky notes. This one's Post-it notes, and I'm not sure. This one's got to be a Post-it note too. But essentially, it's just a little tab. And I use these to keep track of where I am in, like if I print a pattern out, I'll usually use this to mark the row that I'm on. So that's just another way of keeping track. So just little sticky notes. So let's talk about notions. I think, well, let's start with the gauge ruler because this is it's right on top of everything. So this is, I think this brand is Skacel. I got it from, I don't know, or sorry, I got it several years ago. I think it cost me maybe $10 or so, but it's essentially, it's got the holes here that help you figure out what size of needles you have. They have it in millimeters and the US size. And then the neat thing about this square is that it's a 4x4, or 4x4 inches or 10x10 centimeters. So this is like the perfect way to check your gauge because it's already got the size that you're looking for, like the square. That I would say most patterns ask for a 4x4 inch gauge swatch to get, you know, to figure out what your stitches and your row count is. So I would rank this a 5 out of 5, or sorry, I would rate this a 5 out of 5. I use this all the time. I say all the time. When I gauge swatch, I use this all the time. The next thing is, so this is a bento box. This is like a Tupperware container, and it's meant to put like a sandwich and a salad and, like, you know, a snack and all that kind of stuff. But I bought this many years ago, and I intended to use it as like a lunchbox, but I never did. And then I think it was 2 years ago when Emily of High Fiber Knits first started her podcast, or her channel on YouTube. It was within the first handful of videos that she had. She pulled out the exact bento box. Hers might have been a different color. And she showed that she uses it as a notions kit, or like a notions box to keep all her stuff in. So for the bento box, I would say I would rate it a 4 out of 5. I don't use it all the time, but I do often use it. I would say, because I would often use this if I didn't have my notions pouches, because I'll get to my notions pouches next. But this is like, whatever doesn't fit into my notion pouches goes into this bento box. So let's see if I can hold this up. So this is the bento box. I've got some little wool washes here, and then I've got a measuring tape, which I'll rate when I get to my notions pouches. And then, this little storage container I would rate, let's see, I don't use it all the time, so I'd rate it 4 out of 5, because I use it quite often, just not all the time. I think the reason about this bento box being more of like a 4 out of 5 is because I use my notion pouches way more often. But in any case, so this is just a little, I think it's like a bead storage little plastic container. But I use this for my stitch markers. So you see on this side, I've got needle stoppers, and then I have some stitch markers there, like just the basic round ones. And then what do I have here? I have, in this one I have, what are they called? A progress keeper. And then in this one I have my fancy stitch markers. Let's see. So this is one of my fancy little stitch markers. It's a little beaded one. This is from Ocean Loops. I got this at Knit City last year. It was a kit, or I say a kit. It was I think it was a group of 5. No, is it 5 or 4? I think it's 4 stitch markers and then a progress keeper. So of course I got the one with the little bird on it. Or yeah, the little bird. It's a Honeybird Studio. So yeah, it was 4 stitch markers and then a progress keeper. Those particular stitch markers I would rate a 3 out of 5 because they're very beautiful, and I really like whenever I do use them on a project, it feels super fancy and like very, I don't know, just pretty. But I do find that the dangly kind of stitch markers tend to get in the way. So I normally only use these for if I'm knitting a hat in the round. It's less likely that it's going to go flip back and forth. If I was knitting flat, I think it would, I don't know, get in the way, but that's just my own thing. I know a lot of people use these like kind of fancier stitch markers because they are really pretty, and they do kind of like elevate working on a project, because it's really nice to get to the point where you have to slip the stitch marker and it's just like, oh, it's so pretty. But the other, so that would be like, yeah, I would say a 3 out of 5. And then the other stitch markers that I have in here are like just basic, I don't know how to, they're just wire in a loop with a bead on them. Oh yeah, no, you won't be able to see the pink ones. Let me grab the blue ones. I'll grab a couple of these ones. So these, they're little, I would say like, kind of like, they remind me of chainmail, because I actually made all of the pink ones in here. I made myself. I have, many years ago I bought, I don't know what it's called, but it was a tool to wrap wire around, and then you cut it, and then you get all these little loops, and you can make chainmail, or as I discovered, I can make these little stitch markers. So I have quite a few of these, and I would probably rate these, I would rate them 4 out of 5, because I use them often, but not all the time. But I do find that they are more practical, than like the dangly stitch markers. And also, like, I was able to make a whole bunch of these for relatively cheap. I think I just had to buy, a spool of wire. There was a very specific type of wire I needed to get, that had a certain malleability to it. If that's a word. It had to be, yeah. And then I had to buy bead glue, and then I already had like the beads, because I used to do other kind of bead stuff. Oh, and then the other thing I have in here is like the needle stoppers. I think this came in a pack of like 6 or 8. They're just like, I think these are like the small medium size, and I would rate these, again, maybe a 3 out of 5. I don't often use them. I guess I sometimes use them. Usually I used them recently for a project because the yarn was very slippery, and I was like working in the round, and on, I guess I was using metal needles, so it was quite slippy. And so when I would put the project into one of my project bags, it made sense to put the stitch stoppers on it. The other thing I have in this case is little scissors, just these little tiny guys. I think it's a cat. I don't know if you can see. It looks like an octopus, but I promise you it's a cat. And it just holds the scissors in there. So I'm pretty sure these would be TSA approved. They're small enough. I'm pretty sure they'd be allowed on an airplane. But yeah, these particular scissors, I would probably, I don't know. I rate them a 1 out of 5 because I rarely, if ever, I probably haven't used these in forever because I have better scissors. But these are good. They're good if I need something, just something super tiny, I guess, to snip stuff. But I think these cost like, I don't know, maybe like $10 or something. I wouldn't say it's worth it. I would rather spend the money on a nice pair, like a nicer pair of scissors. But if you're looking for something small that, like I said, I believe is TSA approved because they're so tiny. You know, if you're traveling and you need a small pair of scissors, this will probably work. I mean, it cuts the yarn just fine. The next thing is a measuring tape. I have a number of measuring tapes. I would say this is a 5 out of 5 for sure. Use them all the time. Whenever I need to measure something, retractable measuring tape, top notch. What else do I have in here? I have a cable needle. So this is, I think it's called like a hook or a crook. I don't know. It's a hooked cable needle. In any case, this I would rate 5 out of 5. Whenever I do cables, I always use the hook cable needle. I've tried with the straight cable needle. I've tried with the one with the little bump in it. And then I tried this one. And honestly, I don't know how. I've seen other people use the other 2 types of cable needles, but I honestly, they're so fiddly for me. Maybe it's just the way that I knit. I can't seem to figure out how to hold my knitting and the cable needle and knit these stitches and then knit them off, and it was just a little too confusing. So when I found the hook shape, it was like totally a game changer. I can cable, like there's absolutely no problem. I find with the hook, you basically like hook the stitches, and then whether it's a front cross or a back cross, I just kind of like let it, you know, it essentially like dangles like that on the stitch. And then I knit the other stitches, and then I pull this back up, put the stitches on the left hand needle, and then I knit them. So 5 out of 5. So the other thing I've gotten here is some more stitch markers. So I think this brand is Clover. Oh, here we go. Now you can see. That's Clover brand. Oh, also, by the way, I'm not sponsored or affiliated with any of the products that I'm showing. I don't think I'll be linking any, like, I'm not gonna be linking any, like, links to where you can buy these things, because, like, for the most part, I've just bought these here and there over the past couple of years. So you could probably find them on Amazon. You could probably find some of these things at your local arts and crafts store or your local yarn shop. I definitely support going to your local yarn shop to see if they've got any of these kind of tools. So, but yeah, so these are they're sheep shaped, and these ones are just like basic, just hook ones. And then I have these ones, but I don't generally use them. I would rate these a 1 out of 5. They're not, I don't know, I just don't use them. And then these ones I would rate 4 out of 5 because while I don't use them all the time, when I do need to mark stitches, like if I'm doing sleeves on a sweater or like decreases down the side or anything like that where I need to keep track of like every X amount of rows, I'll use these markers because it's nice because each kit or each pack comes with 2 different colors. So I can alternate between like a yellow one for the first 10 stitches, a pink one for the next 10 stitches, and then yellow, pink. And it's the same with this. So I have enough in here between the 2 of them to mark, like if I need to do a sweater, enough to mark both sleeves. So I would say 4 out of 5 for these guys. So in here I have cable needles. So these are like the other, I've got a straight cable needle, and then 2 of these like, I don't know, bent ones, 2 different sizes. I don't even want to rate these because I just don't use them. Oh, I guess well, I don't want to say 0 out of 5 because it really is, it depends on how you like to cable, if you like to use a straight or a bent one. But for me personally, I just don't ever use these. I never use them, but I bought them a long time ago when I was first starting to cable, and I was trying out all the different cable needles, so I didn't want to throw them away, so I kept them. And then another thing I've gotten here is a crochet hook. So this is just a basic, what is this? The brand is Boy. I'm pretty sure like Susan Bates or something like that. Boy and maybe Clover. I've got a bunch of different crochet hooks because I used to crochet. But in any case, I would say for a crochet hook, in terms of knitting related stuff, I don't use this particular hook. I have another one that I use, or I have other ones that I use, but like in general, I use a crochet hook to fix stitches. So if I need to drop down and pick up like multiple rows of stitches, using a crochet hook makes it a lot easier than like going down with the knitting needle and then trying to work your way back up, at least for me. So I would say, well, it doesn't happen very often. When it does, I would say 4 out of 5. Well, you know what? Honestly, 5 out of 5. It's good to have if you need to fix stitches. I feel like it's a good idea to have a crochet hook, or a stitch fixer, which I'll show later. But yeah, this one's just a little one. So this one I would use for like fingering weight or even DK weight. And then I have a bigger one that I use for like worsted weight and up. So I guess not to say I use it all the time, but when I do need to use it, I absolutely use it. The other things I have in here is these little plastic containers. So I bought these. These were like in the impulse buy section at Michael's at my arts and crafts store. And it was like a pack of 3 for $5 or something. So it's just this little like lockable case. And basically, I would say, I don't know, I guess I would rate these like I don't know how to rate this because I don't often, I mean, I use it obviously to store stuff, but I don't often need to go in here and get things. But this is just a container that has my cable stoppers and I think a couple of the cable keys. And then this one has all the extra cable keys and just some like extra, I think there's like some stitch markers and stuff in there that I honestly don't use. I think those were hand-me-down ones that I had from a long time ago that I've since upgraded. But I would say these little tiny cases, maybe a 3 out of 5. I use them sometimes. Oh, that's kind of a weird way to say it, because I use them to hold my stuff. But I don't often have to go in here to find things because, like I said, I use my Notion pouches, which I'll get to in a sec. And then what else do I got in here? Got more cable stoppers. Oh, and then I've got this little container here, and it's just got some extra stuff in it, which I have one of these stitch counters. I think this was what? Susan Bates. So it's like you could put it on your finger as a ring, and then you press the button, and then every time you do a row, you press the button, and it goes up. And then I think there's a reset button, and then it resets back to 0. This, honestly, 1 out of 5. I rarely use this anymore. I got it, I think it was like on clearance at like my local fabric store. They had like a clearance section of like knitting notions. So I probably only paid a couple bucks for it. The other one that I would rate also a 1 out of 5 is this, like this manual stitch counter or row counter. This one you can like kind of slide onto your needle. I mean, I don't know. Unless you're working in the round, it doesn't really make sense to put it on your needle, but that's an option. But yeah, it's just you have to like crank the numbers around. So each number on each side. Again, 1 out of 5. I just don't use row counters, honestly. I prefer to either keep track in my notebook with pen, like different colored pens, or I use something else. So yeah, so that's my bento box. I would say, like, if you have one of these laying around or you see one, like, I'm pretty sure you can find them at, like, I don't know, a department store or something like that. It's really nice to keep everything organized and in one place. So just a really cool idea that, again, I saw Emily from High Fiber Knits talk about on one of her videos. Okay. I think another thing, just a random notion, or not notion, but like a tool that I used to make hats. No, I didn't use it to make hats, sorry. I used it to make pom-poms for hats. So it's just these, I think it's Clover, the pom-pom makers. I think this is the large and medium? Large and grande. Large and grand? No, or it's just a large set. So it's 2.5 inch to 3 3/4 inch pom-pom makers, and I would say honestly 1 out of 5. I don't use them anymore. I don't make hats with pom-poms, but if you're someone who likes pom-poms, like if you like to make pom-poms and put them on hats or slippers or whatever, use a I think I got this from Michael's again. I probably used a coupon on it, 40% off. It's the way to go. Never pay full price. But if you make hats and you do like pom-poms, I would say this makes, I mean, I don't know. I used to hand make pom-poms with like a piece of cardboard and you just wrap the yarn around it and then you tie it and then you snip it. But these I find make much more, what's the word? Consistent pom-poms. So if pom-poms are your thing, something like this might be up your alley. For me personally, I just don't use them anymore. I use like faux fur pom-poms. That's kind of my thing. If I'm gonna put a pom-pom on a hat, I don't generally use yarn pom-poms or pom-poms made of yarn. So for me, it's a 1 out of 5. All right. So what else do I got here? Oh yeah, okay. So let's get into like my knitting Notion pouches because these are a 5 out of 5. Absolutely. I have four knitting notion pouches, and each one has almost the equivalent, they each have similar items in them. This one is like, I guess I would rate them, so I mean like 5 out of 5, but the one I use the most often is going to be the small one, and then this medium one, and then my cat-shaped one, and then this bigger one. Let's see, I'll start with the big one. So this is my favorite fabric that I've ever had, and I've had it for like 10 years, and I just recently, I don't have them here, but I did recently sew up project bags out of this fabric. Okay, so in here, I have one of these like stitch holder things. I actually have a number of these because they, I don't know, I don't remember where I got them from, but honestly, 1 out of 5, I rarely, if ever, I never use these, to be honest. I just don't. Stitch holder. I use cable needles to hold stitches, so, and here's my crochet hooks. I got a small one and then a big one. So what is this? This is again the Boy brand. I've got an I, which is also a 9, which is also a 5.5 millimeter. And then I have an E, which is a 4, which is a 3.5 millimeter. So usually like this one's for, I would say DK and lower. And then this one I would use for, oh no, I guess I would use this for like, yeah, Aran and up, or worsted and up. Any case. And then of course, measuring tape, retractable measuring tape. Always a 5 out of 5. Gotta have one of those. Scissors. These scissors, one of my favorites. 5 out of 5. I love the little stork scissors. I'm pretty sure like you can buy these at a fabric store, at the hobby craft stores, department stores. I'm like, not department stores, like Walmart or something like that. 5 out of 5. Love these scissors. And then I've got these little, okay, so like these pouches, just these little Ziploc pouches or whatever. They come with, every time I buy a cable needle, or sorry, not a cable needle, every time I buy cables for my interchangeable needles, they come in these zipper pouches, and I keep them because they're great for storing my stuff in. So I've got the needle stoppers and cable stoppers. So honestly, like these little zipper pouches, I would say 5 out of 5. Like I use them all the time. I'm pretty sure I've got them in, I use these to hold things in every one of my notion pouches. Okay, so that's that. And then the one unique thing I have in this pouch that I don't have in the other pouches is this metal tin. In here is where I keep small bits of cotton yarn, or small bits of cotton. And if you're ever doing provisional cast-ons, like the crochet provisional cast-ons where you crochet a chain and then you pick up the stitches in the back loop of the chains, using cotton, especially of like a, oh my gosh, a contrasting color, like a color that, like for me, I don't often knit with this color yarn, like a white or an off-white color, so this works for as like a contrast color, so it's easier to see your stitches when you're picking it up. Honestly, it's a 5 out of 5. I have another spool, or not spool, I have like another thing of cotton yarn, so if I need larger lengths of it, I use from my little ball of cotton up there, but I generally keep these in this tin. 5 out of 5. If I ever do a provisional cast on, I always do the crochet provisional cast on, and I've probably reused this cotton at least a dozen times for doing provisional cast ons. And then I got just a little bit more in this ball here. The other thing I have in here is an interesting tool that I bought because I thought I would use it, but for me, it's a 1 out of 5. This is a needle threader. So it's, honestly, oh, come on. It's just this little tiny tool. And it's thin enough that you can put it through like a tapestry needle, but it's also pretty wide, so you can't really put it in like the smaller, like the needles that have smaller eyes on them. But honestly, like a tapestry needle has a big enough eye that I'm able to get, is that what they're called? The eye? Yeah, eye of the needle. Has a big enough eye that I'm able to just put it through by hand. So this was, I'm sure it would be useful if I ever have a difficult time threading a needle, but I've never used it. I bought it, never used it. It's nice. It's cute. It's very pretty. But I just don't use it. So 1 out of 5 for that. Okay. Let's toss that in there. Okay, so that's my Notion pouch. My first Notion pouch. That's the one that I usually keep as like the most backup of backup. And if I need the cotton yarn. So the next one I have is my cat-shaped Notion pouch. This I picked up. I didn't make this. Oh, I made this one a long time ago. But this one I didn't make. This one I got from a craft fair, like a Christmas craft fair. There was a lady that was selling hand-sewn bags. And I should have bought another one because it's so cute. But in here, I have, again, a zipper bag with some needle stoppers. And then, of course, I've got some stitch markers. So these ones are the smaller version of the sheep that I showed earlier. I have 5 out of 5 for sure. I use these all the time. And this one, I didn't have a measuring tape for this Notion pouch, so I went and I bought one of these. It's not a retractable one. It is just a measuring tape. It was only like $2 or something, so it'll work in a pinch. I don't know. I don't really like the measuring tape, like the non-retractable ones, but it'll do. I would say, while I use the retractable measuring tapes all the time, that would be a 5 out of 5. I would say, even though I use measuring tapes all the time, this one I probably wouldn't reach for as often as the retractable ones. And I might actually like end up replacing this one sometime or someday. I've got scissors, 5 out of 5. I love these scissors. These actually fold up, but like they fold up into a smaller, compact size. Like you're supposed to do this, and then I don't know. I'm too scared to do it. I'm scared I'm gonna hurt myself. But so I just leave them unfolded like this. But they're super nice. It's kind of like a rose gold and silver. I picked these up from Knit City a couple of years ago. And then, oh, again, I've got another zipper pouch of cable stoppers and a cable key. And then I've got, when I used to do beading, I had all these little containers like this. This is just holding some this is holding some stitch markers and a progress keeper. There might be 2 progress keepers in there, but there's a cat-shaped one in there. Let's see if I can pull it out. Again, I don't really use progress keepers, but they are pretty. Let's see the little cat. I think I got this one from, oh gosh, who did I get this from? Black Cat Custom Yarns, maybe? A couple of years ago at Knit City? Perhaps? I'm not 100%. I honestly am not 100% sure. But yeah. So in terms of like progress keepers, I don't know if I mentioned before, but maybe like a 2 out of 5. I just don't use progress keepers. I find that when I hook them onto my knitting, I'm scared that they're gonna get caught on something. I don't know. But I just don't often use them. If I did use a progress keeper, honestly, I would probably just use one of these kind of things to keep track of progress. The other thing I have in here is this Clover tapestry needle container. So this one's got like my smaller, well, it's got a couple of like bigger needles, I guess, but these are like all the metal ones that I have. I guess they go from like medium size to small. So there's got to be like half a dozen needles in there. So I generally use these ones for fingering weight, or maybe even like sport DK weight and smaller or finer weights of yarn. So this is my my second Notion pouch. So this one is like the one I reach for, the third one I reach for. Okay, and then I've got this Notion pouch that I made. It's got mermaids on it. So again, this one's got like a similar vibe to it. Oh, the one thing that this one and the other one don't have is cable needles. So this one I've got, of course, this cable needle, 5 out of 5 for sure. And I've got a smaller cable needle, so this one I use for like DK weight and smaller. That's another 5 out of 5. I love the hook. the hook-shaped cable needles. I've got scissors in here, another 5 out of 5. Can't go wrong with a good pair of scissors. Again, I probably got these from Michael's, and I almost certainly used a coupon, a 40% off coupon. I really like these scissors. They're very, very pretty. And then I've got this thing of tapestry needles. This one's got my plastic, like my larger size ones. So it's got a couple of metal ones, and then it's got this like this plastic one that has like a little like bent, like it's got a bent tip on it. And this one I use all the time. This is a 5 out of 5. This is the one I use most often. Anything from, I guess I probably would use this for like DK weight and up, to be honest. It's just my go-to. It's the easiest one to thread by, like, it's the easiest one to thread. And I like the little hook, or like the bent tip. It's easy to get through the stitches. So, and then of course, I've got my Ziploc bags with cable stoppers and needle stoppers. 5 out of 5 for all those, the Ziploc bags, the needle stopper. Well, okay, the needle stoppers I don't use very often. What did I rate that before? Like a 3 or 4 out of 5? Oh, this one I've got 2 Ziploc bags of cable stoppers. And then I have the cutest measuring tape, which is my cat measuring tape. I got this from a yarn shop that's the next city over, because there's no more yarn shops in my city. The next closest one is about a 30-minute or 45-minute drive, but it's got this little like pom-pom on it, and you pull the tape out, and the cutest thing is the nose is the retractable, is the thing that retracts the tape back. So this is a 5 out of 5. I love this measuring tape. It's the cutest one. So yeah, it's got a little tooth there. Yeah, super cute. I think I paid maybe like $10, maybe 50. I mean, I would have even paid $15 for this because it was super cute. It's a very, what's the word? I wouldn't say like aesthetically pleasing to look at. It just feels nice. It's nice to have nice things, right? Okay, so this is my third Notion pouch, but this is the one I reach for the second most often. And then this is my go-to Notion pouch. This one's the smallest one that I have. So this is just a little Notion pouch. This one, I've made so many in this size. But yeah, so in here, of course, I've got, if I can reach them out, got another cable needle, 5 out of 5. And then I've got another one of these cable needles, 5 out of 5. And then I've got these little tiny scissors. Okay, so these ones are really nice to have. Like, they're little tiny ones, and they fit in my little Notion pouch here. They work just fine, but oh my goodness. I think I paid initially, I think I paid like maybe $7, $8 for these a number of years ago. They used to have like a little, rubber protector that went on here, but I don't know. I must have taken it off or something. But anyways, so these little tiny scissors I would have gotten from my local fabric shop. I say local. It's like one of the more big box fabric stores. And I was there the other day and I saw they sell these for like $14 now. These little tiny scissors. And I'm like, honestly, for that price, I'd rather get the Stork scissors that I'm pretty sure you can find at like Walmart or Michael's or whatever. But in any case, the scissors are always going to be a 5 out of 5. These particular ones, if they weren't so expensive, I would say like these are probably the best ones that I have because they're so small. But they're kind of expensive. Or they're expensive now. I'm certain you could probably find them somewhere else for less expensive, maybe even online, like Amazon or something. And of course, I've got more Ziploc bags of my cable stoppers. Always a 5 out of 5. Like, I use them so often. And this is another container that I have tapestry needles in. This particular one, I don't know. Let's see. It's cool because the needles are magnetic, so they stick to this like purple thing that's in there. And there's I would say half a dozen, maybe 6, 7 needles in here of various sizes, but I honestly only use the biggest one, which is still pretty small. It's got a pretty small eye on it. You're probably not going to see. It's not going to, Yeah, these are more like sewing needles, I would say, as opposed to tapestry needles, to be honest. Yeah, the biggest needle that I use on here, I would only ever use for lace or fingering weight. The eye of the needle is too small for anything larger than fingering weight, and even then, I think that's kind of pushing it. So this part, like this particular needle holder with needles in it, I don't use it very often. So I would say, what did I say? I use it sometimes, maybe a 3 out of 5. If I'm, yeah, I haven't often been knitting lace, but if I did, I would use the needle that comes in this one, because the needles that come in the other 2 clover ones that I have, they're too big for something for lace. Another thing that I have in here is a stitch fixer. So I think this is Susan Bates. I think I paid like maybe like, I don't know, $8 for it. So essentially it's got like a needle on one end, and then it's got a hook on the other. So it's like a crochet hook. And the reason why I like this one, I would say, is while I don't often, I'm not like fixing stitches every day, when I do need to fix stitches, because this is my number 1 notions pouch, I keep it in here. I would say it's a 5 out of 5. This is like just a nifty little tool to have. I would say DK weight and under. I think this particular one, the hook is too small for anything larger than DK. You might be able to get away with worsted, but it just seems a little bit smaller. But it's super, I find it super handy. It's not as long as a crochet hook. It's, I don't know, it's compact size. For the money I spent on it, I feel like I've gotten my worth out of it. And then this is a notion tin. I got this from Firefly Notes. So this is absolutely a 5 out of 5. I use this all the time. And inside here, oh, I don't want to drop all the stitch markers, but there's a ton of stitch markers in here. There's everything from like plain circular ones to honeycomb shaped ones. Probably not going to be able to see, but there's a honeycomb shaped one. And then I have various sizes of these cat shaped ones. There we go. So I got all of these are from Firefly Notes. So I've got a ton of the itty bitty kitties, which is all these, like, I got the silver ones. So I've got a number of these ones. And then I also keep a cable key, or like yeah, I think it's called a cable key in here. I have cable keys in every one of my notion pouches because they're just really handy to have everywhere, because I use interchangeable needles all the time. But yeah, so this is a really nice little case. It's like a little matchbook case, so it kind of opens like that, and then you pop it closed, and it keeps all of your stitch markers in one place. So that is absolutely 5 out of 5, and every stitch marker in here is a 5 out of 5. I will say though, the ones with the cat ears, on smaller projects, I wouldn't recommend them, because I find that the ears, at least for me, will sometimes get caught in the yarn, or like I'll have to like turn them around and then keep knitting, because sometimes the stitches get caught between the 2 ears. And not like caught, but like they kind of like, I don't know, get stuck on the ear. So on smaller projects, I would say anything fingering and less. I wouldn't use the cat ear stitch markers, but anything, well, maybe even like anything worsted and up, I'll use the cat ear markers because they're cute, and I don't find that I have that problem with worsted weight and higher. But anything, I guess, DK weight and lower, I would use just the regular circle or the honeycomb shaped stitch markers. So that's that. Okay, I'm just gonna toss all these back into my notions pouch. Yeah, this notion pouch is the one that's like my most used one. So I have every possible tool that I could need, and everything inside my notion pouches. It's like I never go anywhere with my knitting without at least one of my notion pouches. Okay, so that's that. Okay, we're coming up on an hour here. I'll try and quickly get through the rest of these. So I'll talk about this. This is This is an Light. I think the brand Light. But this is like a travel light, so you can charge it. It's a USB charge, or you charge it through a USB cord, and then it kind of unfolds like that. It's got some, I don't know, it's got the date and time on here and the temperature. I don't really need that. The only reason why I bought this was because I think it was $40, and I got to use a coupon on it, which I didn't think I could, because I didn't think coupons applied to this brand, but I got 40% off, so that's a great deal. But in any case, I turn it on. Oh, there, okay, I did charge it. So it's basically like, it's supposed to emulate daylight, like the Light brand. And then I think there's different settings. If I touch that, it goes darker or dimmer and dimmer, and then off. So it's got 3 light settings. This, I would say like 2 out of 5. Honestly, I would say I rarely use it. Let's see. Yeah, I would say I rarely use it. When the power goes out, absolutely I'll use this. Like, as long as it's got a charge, it'll last for a couple of hours. I think I used it once when the power went out last winter, and the only other time I use it is if I'm knitting inside, because I live in a basement suite, so it's pretty dark. So if I'm knitting on dark colored yarn, like a dark purple, or like any dark blue, dark purple, anything that's really dark, and especially black yarn, I will use this light. But I haven't really been knitting with dark color yarn. I mean, even my my current project, the Hito Fude, I've found that I'm not needing the light, but it's nice to have, like I said, in case the power goes out. It sucks to be sitting there and not being able to do anything, so having a light so I can knit while the power's out is nice. But yeah, 2 out of 5. Yeah, I don't know. I just don't use it very often unless it's absolutely necessary. Okay. I guess I'll talk about, oh yeah, so the other thing is my tablet. So it's absolutely not necessary, but it's nice to have. So I've got on here, I use an app called Knit Companion. So let me just exit out of this. And if I can turn it sideways. So the cool thing about Knit Companion is that it hooks up to your Ravelry library. And so basically I've downloaded well, not all of the patterns that I've bought, but I've downloaded a number of patterns that I have bought. Let's see, what do I have in here? What can I show? Well, I can show one of my patterns, this one here. So essentially, I don't know if you can see there. So this is my list toque, which eventually I'll get around to re-releasing. I'm still working on getting the charts done, which should be soon. So like, just as an example, this is the free version. Oh, but I think there's extra things you can get with the paid version. I'm not sure because I haven't paid for it. But this highlighted line here, you can move it based on where you are in your pattern. And then this other blue line, you can move it across. Like, so if it's, you know, a 2-column kind of thing. And then in the bottom corner, they've got like a stitch counter. There's 6 different colors, so you can keep track of 6 different things. And you just have to tap on it, and it changes the number. So this I would rate a 5 out of 5. I'm pretty sure you can use Knit Companion on your phone, maybe? I mean, it's an app. I'm not sure if it's on Android. I know for sure it's on the Apple store, because this is an Apple tablet or an iPad or whatever. But if you have a tablet and you don't want to print your patterns off, or you don't want to like have to sit at your computer or scroll on your phone kind of thing, I don't know, I like having the tablet because I can just like prop it up like this and then keep track of where I'm at. And the nice thing too is that it'll save where you are if you exit out. So if I exit out and then I come back in, where am I? There. it pops back up where I left off. So in terms of keeping track of patterns, I use Knit Companion almost all the time. I would say it's definitely a 5 out of 5 for me, and it's the easiest way for me to keep track of where I am in a pattern. I will say though, like, again, I don't know if the paid version has more options, but I find in combination with a notebook, some colored pens, and Knit Companion on my tablet, I find that I rarely, if ever, forget where I am in a pattern, and it's just a nice way of, I don't know, keeping track of my patterns and having multiple patterns, because I used to print off all my patterns and then I would use, like I said, sticky notes to keep track. And sometimes the sticky notes would fall off, and then when I go to pick it up again, I'm like, oh my gosh, where was I in the pattern? And then I have to read my knitting and like reverse engineer where I was to figure out where I'm going. But yeah, so that, yeah, Knit Companion I would say is 5 out of 5. I use it pretty well all the time for most patterns that I'm working on. And then there's just like 2 more things I could talk about. Okay, one thing is for hands. Like, I used to have a problem where my hand, like especially in the winter, my hands would be really, really dry and kind of cracky. Like, yeah, and then working with something like wool or anything that's a little bit more rustic, or even like superwash, honestly, like any yarn, and it would catch on like the cracks in my fingers, and it just didn't feel very good. So I kind of have this like hand care routine where the first step is actually a cuticle oil. So this is, you can't see it, but it's the Sally Hansen cuticle oil. It's like vitamin E. What does it say on here? It says vitamin E, nail and cuticle oil. I don't know. I got it from Walmart. It's probably like $10 or something. And then I have this roll-on one that I got from the farmer's market. So this one comes with a brush. So you, like, what I do is I'll just brush it on one side, and then I'll go like this and then rub it into my cuticles. And then this is a roll-on one. So this one I prefer because it's easier to handle. It's just got the roll-on thing. So I roll it onto one side, and then I do this, and then, you know, rub it in. And then once that's dry, I've had a number of different hand lotions, and I found that this particular brand, EOS, has been the one that works the best for my skin. I actually have 3 of these. I have this one's the eucalyptus, this one's the lavender, and then I have a coconut one that I keep in my purse. So generally, like, I keep one of these in my bin of knitting supplies, and then I keep one of them with my current project, and then I keep another one in my purse. But if you find you have like dry hands, I think the biggest thing for me was the cuticle oil. That's what really helps stop the cracking around this area of my fingers. So I would rate these. They're not really knitting related, but they do help me with knitting. 5 out of 5. I use the cuticle oil and the hand cream almost daily, and I think like my nails are really long. They're quite healthy. I feel like I don't know if I would attribute it to the hand care, using the cuticle oil and the hand cream or the hand lotion. But it's not going to focus, but I don't have, like, my fingers don't crack as often up here. Like, well, I would say, like, they don't crack ever anymore. The only time that they do is if I'm doing intense cleaning or like moving a lot of things. If I'm doing a lot of stuff, like labor intensive stuff with my hands, then I find those are the days that I need to put lotion on a little bit more. But in general, I think my hands, like, I don't ever get yarn caught on cracked skin or anything like that because I don't have any more cracked skin for it to catch on. So, like, not necessary, but if that's something that you find is an issue for you, hand lotion and cuticle oil, 5 out of 5 for sure. And then, okay, the last thing I wanted to talk about, or the last thing I was going to rate, is, again, something that's not like super knitting related. I guess if I knit a lot, or if I'm doing specific, like a lot of twisting stitches, like an actual twisted rib where you twist the knit stitch and the purl stitch. That can be pretty hard on my hands or my wrist. So I find I get pain in here, which I could use the joint balm stuff for, but I actually have these Tommy Copper compression things. This is what I like the most, is the wrist. I guess like the compression wristlet. I don't know what it's called because I bought this forever ago, but this one I find was the best. This is the second one I've bought over the past, I don't know, 8 years or something, or no, I guess 7 years. But it's a compression wrist thing, and I find that this really helps relieve the pain, because like what I'll do is I'll wear this for the day and to bed, and then the next day, like, generally the pain is like more bearable, if not gone completely. So this was the version I prefer to wear, which is a 5 out of 5, I would say. It's a 5 out of 5 purchase, because it was like, I don't know, $25 or maybe $30, but I got a lot of use out of this one. It's currently not as compressed as it could be, or it doesn't compress as much as it could, because I've worn this thing so much in the past, so much that like all the labeling and stuff came off. So when I went to go buy a new one recently, I did have some wrist pain earlier this year, I guess a couple months ago. So I went to buy another one of the wrist ones, but I couldn't find it, so I had to get the glove. So basically, this one actually, I guess, it works like if you have pain in this area. For me, I generally don't get pain in my hand up here. My pain is generally in my wrist here. But this compression glove is really nice. I wore this, I think I had to wear it for about a week a couple months ago to help with the pain in my wrist. And yeah, like I haven't had to use it since then, but I would say I would prefer to use this because it's worked for me in like over the last, like this particular, not this glove, but this thing worked for me for what, 6 years, and then this is the one that I recently bought, and this worked for me when I get pain in my wrist. So I would say while I don't use it very often, when I do need to use it, it's a 5 out of 5. It definitely helps relieve the pain in my wrist. Yeah, okay, that was a lot. If you've made it this far, thank you so much for sticking it out and listening to me ramble about all my knitting notions and miscellaneous tools. And yes, so like I mentioned at the beginning of the episode, or at the beginning of the video, I wanted to do a giveaway. And so for the giveaway, I have a couple of prizes. And I think what I want to do, like for a prompt for the giveaway is, or like to enter the giveaway, I would appreciate it if you like this video, subscribe to my channel, and leave a comment letting me know what is a knitting notion, or like one of the miscellaneous kind of tools that you use for knitting that is like your number one go-to. Like for me, my number one go-to, I would say, is a notions pouch. I use these all the time, and like all the little notions that go inside of it, scissors, measuring tape, top notch. But yeah, so let me know, what is your number one knitting notion or miscellaneous tool that you use all the time when you're working on knitting projects. Yeah, so leave that comment below, and that'll enter you into winning one of the prizes. So the first one is going to be this project bag. There's a double point needle holder, like a matching double point needle holder, and then I didn't have enough fabric to make a matching notions pouch, so I made a whole bunch of this particular fabric or this particular style of notion pouches. So I'm giving away one for each of the prizes. So yeah, so this is it's a small project bag, so it's good for socks, and the DPN holder is good for, I think it's like up to 6-inch DPNs or something like that. I can't remember what the measurement was. I made these forever ago. But yeah, the notions pouch that's in here is the same size as my go-to notions pouch. Okay, and then the second one is this one. So again, it's a small project bag with a DPN holder and a notion pouch. So this one, again, is a small size, good for socks. You should be able to fit a hat in there too. That is everything. This is a very long video. I apologize for the length of it, but I'm very grateful that you've made it this far. Yeah, so that's about it for today. Again, to enter the contest or the giveaway, just leave a comment below, and then the next time I post a video, I guess maybe the next time I do a podcast episode, I will announce the winners in that video, and yeah, and then we'll go from there. So anyways, that's it for me today. Thanks again for watching, and until next time, happy knitting!